This is the Debunking Economics podcast with Steve Keen and Phil Dobbie.
The Archives.
Episode 193. Do we need a Corona bond?
Central banks are cutting interest rates like that's going to make much difference to consumer demand or indeed supply when sick people are staying off work. But what about government stimulus measures? There were some in the UK budget, there's been some from Australia, but are they enough? And there's none so far from Europe, and they're arguing over it in America as well. So what needs to be done so we can get through this pandemic with businesses and livelihoods still left intact? That's today on the Debunking Economics podcast with Professor Steve Keen. I'm Phil Dobbie. So, Steve, before we recorded this, I've just been to the supermarket and a song came to mind, which was, you can't always get what you want, but you get what you need. Because there were lots of gaps in the supermarket and very little choice. If you wanted, if you wanted to buy toilet roll, there was Sainsbury's own brand, and that was about all that was left.
Amazing, that was left.
So, yeah, and that I was lucky. I think I got the last 47 packets, which I bought in panic. No, I would never do that. But look, we are. Let's look at government stimulus packages, because we've had a few of those. I wonder whether are they stimulus packages or is that the right word? Maybe we should be calling them survival packages to try and get us over the next few weeks. But particularly for hourly workers, people paid by the hour. Yeah. I mean, I've looking at what has been done in Australia, what's been done in the UK. For the gig economy, there's nothing in. They have almost been overlooked, haven't they?
They have. Yeah. I think I saw the Australian government was giving them $40 a week or something like that, and this is a complete failure to understand the scale of the problem. This is the thing I spoke about. I don't think I've actually spoken about the exponential issue, but I've done a couple of Patreon blogs on it, which, just by the way, for people who don't, let's make this a freebie given the coronavirus.
Yeah, of course.
Okay? Virtually the only thing that isn't freely accessible on my site is normally our podcasts.
Yeah. Okay? So there's loads of other stuff.
Loads of other stuff which is freely available, and that includes the stuff on the coronavirus, obviously. But yeah. What I've done is I look at the exponential factor that implies in a process like this, because initially a virus like this will grow exponentially. Yeah, it slows down. It has to, because you can't have it. There aren't 10.
You run out of people to infect.
You run out of people. Yeah. Okay? And you also run into those who have got some natural immunity, even though we've never...
And people within your circle as well. Because, if you look at China now, China has leveled, if we believe the numbers, China has leveled off a
and
it's quite...
Some of those numbers are slightly fictional, but the thing is, what works is isolation. And the Chinese have got no problem about imposing it, because one of the advantages of being fundamentally still a police state is you can impose police state rules without changing anything.
Yeah. But supposedly they have lifted those now, in lots of places.
No, well, slowly, but the isolation works. But the measures that are being done for things like the gig economy people are useless. Yeah. Because I think we have to actually acknowledge probably the best minister of silly walks. What are the other Monty Python things about the upper class twit?
Yeah, upper class twit of the year. Yeah.
No, this is possibly of the millennium. The industrial relations minister in Australia said that casual workers don't need to get any special assistance here, because, of course, one of the ideas of casual work is you get a higher rate of pay to cover you for these sorts of things.
Oh, yeah, right.
Holy crap. What a fucking idiot. Totally out of touch with the real world.
So when we talked about this last week, I said that the Prime Minister in Australia had said, look, we won't be giving any handouts. It's not going to be money direct into your bank account. And you said, well, he's going to eat his words on that fairly quickly. And sure enough, here we are, $750, a one-off payment to all welfare recipients, including those who are getting family tax benefits. So
I've got to say, thank you, it's being done. Normally I'll dump on things to say that, but at least it's starting to happen. And the trouble about an exponential process is it always moves faster than those people who are reacting to it and think linearly. And that's what's going on here. So my argument, and I've got this published in the Daily Mail with an excellent young journalist in Australia who's followed these ideas for quite a while, is that something of the order of $10,000 like something you can pay 2 to 3 months worth of rent, mortgage payments, and food.
Yeah.
And we have to give that to everybody.
Which we're not, though. So 750 is a lump sum payment just in Australia, and only for those people who are on welfare. So those people who are working, who lose their job, I guess that they could find themselves on welfare, but then it might be too late. And then you've got. But what's astonished me is this focus on trying to keep businesses going and keep businesses employing people. So saying, for example, that we're going to, instant asset write-off from 30,000 to 150,000 to get businesses spending. So businesses aren't spending because there's no demand.
Yeah.
And they can't employ people if there's no demand. So...
and as soon as they have one case of coronavirus, they've got to shut down the factory or the shop.
Yeah.
I mean, we've lived in a fantasy world which says that the free market is the best possible system. Which works if you live in the free market lives in an environment which is stable.
Yeah.
And what have we done with the free market? We've pushed the system which it's embedded into overdrive, and now it's starting to break down. It's breaking down, not starting to break down, it's starting to break down in ways we notice.
Yeah.
Okay, it's been breaking down for the last 30 years fundamentally, but we're now starting to see it break down.
But this is a big one. This
hits home to every. Do you notice that Tom Hanks got it?
Yes.
Okay. Now,
I was just talking to my mum this morning. She was saying, I've just been on the phone to. We've got a sort of like a distant cousin who lives on the Gold Coast.
Yeah.
And I said, I've just called him because the Gold Coast is on lockdown because Tom Hanks got it.
Yeah.
And I said, so Mr. Jones down the road gets it, then there's no problem. But if Tom Hanks gets it, lock down the Gold Coast.
And that's the beauty of the celebrity world, because I wanted to see a celebrity, not Tom Hanks, because he's a damn decent human being. I would have preferred another.
I'm sure you've got a list.
I got a list. But yeah, it's a tragedy that as good a human being as him cops at first. But that gets people say, if Tom Hanks can get it, anybody can get it. And this is one reason why, just on a diversion, that's one reason the Chinese have been so effective at reducing pollution, going away from coal and going towards solar, because everybody breathes the air.
Yeah.
No matter how wealthy you are, your kids are still going to breathe the stuff when they go outdoors. So the Communist Party in Beijing can't ignore the pollution.
Right. But they do have a heck of a lot of it as well,
but it's been dramatically reduced in the last few years. And so this is the case where when somebody like Tom Hanks gets it, you can't ignore it. And I hope he survives, of course. He's got apparently type 2B. My driver told me he has type 2 diabetes.
Right.
So he's one of the vulnerable ones as well. And we're looking at the basic metrics of this thing is if without any attempt at social isolation, it appears to double every 6 days.
Yeah.
Okay. When we first start seeing cases, it's doubling every 2 days. Because it's suddenly what hasn't been there suddenly bubbles to the surface and then bang, massive discovery. But in terms of normal human
interactions,
intercourse, but of course that's not going to happen a lot. No. Okay, the interaction.
Well, maybe it is when we all self-isolate. What are we going to do?
Indeed.
If you remember during the energy crisis,
you heard it here first.
Yeah, it's going to happen. Remember the energy crisis in the 70s, where the TV went off at 10 o'clock at night, and so did the power. Surprise!
Birth rate went up.
Birth rate went up. Who'd imagine that?
Okay. So every 6 days it doubles. It appears that about 85% of people get no to minor symptoms. About 15% get serious symptoms, enough to consider hospitalisation whether they do it or not, and 3% get critical. And some professors that sort into those who are critical are going to die.
Yeah.
So this is almost...
And it looks like that's a lot more than the 1% that we've been hearing.
I've been seeing ranges between 0.2% and 3.4% as the overall death rate estimates. In Italy at the moment it's running about 5%. That's because, again, it's just overwhelming. They weren't ready for it. It appears to be related to heat as well. One reason Australia has done relatively well is because the fucking place is hot. Pardon my French, but I'm going to use a lot of French in the next few weeks. So that therefore means that the virus survives a less lengthy time on surfaces and in the air where it can be picked up by other people. That's the only reason Australia's been lucky so far. To give you an idea of that, I mean, I spend my time in 3 countries: Australia, the Netherlands, and the UK. And I was watching the numbers, which if people want to see probably the most useful dashboard right now, and this is the Johns Hopkins University dashboard. I intend bringing out a better one using a very primitive version of my software package Ravel, which I was going to leave until September, but I'm going to, as soon as it's ready, which in the next two days to 2 weeks, I'm going to release for free both the software and a dashboard based on it, so people can see the trends. So Johns Hopkins doesn't show you that. They've got to go to the raw data to see it. And I was stunned. Every day I'd wake up and check 0 cases in the Netherlands, 0 cases in the Netherlands, 0 case. What's going on here? It's a tourist hub of a major scale. Australia, meantime, is going up and hits about 30. Now went through 70, now it's about 100 and something cases. The Netherlands, in the meantime, has gone from 0 to about 500. And what you've got is, I think, again, the cold climate thing. Colder climates, the virus lasts longer on surfaces. It's easier to pick up. And people are still thinking they can hold normal social events in this situation. Absolutely not. We should have banned mass sporting events 2 weeks ago minimum, more like a month, 6 weeks ago. So no more sporting events. I
think that's going to happen, isn't it?
Yeah, but let's do it now. I mean, the idiots talking about holding the Melbourne Grand Prix, for example. The idiots saying they're going to have the Olympic Games in Japan. Screw that. It's over. Okay?
Well, there's talk now that's going to be pushed back to November, isn't there? I think.
Well, if they're lucky. Yeah. We televise everything. The only sport I can think of that we could safely have people compete in, and I think it should be a good social idea to do it. So apart from having to consider having sex with our partner we haven't spoken to for the last X weeks, you might also watch a bit of sport. It's tennis. Because at least with tennis, the opponents are 20 metres apart. Even when they get to volleying at the net, they're still a metre apart. Yeah. Trust me, I've played high-level tennis.
Not mixed doubles or doubles, obviously.
No, not doubles, singles. Singles.
Yeah. There must be some other sports where you're a long way away.
Let's get a few items. Tennis works. Opponents...
One-a-side football? Oh, no, you're going to tackle each other, aren't you?
Forget it. Okay. Anything involving contact and audiences, empty stadiums or a stadium with one person per division, at least get a bit of a cheering. Schools, universities, all that has to be shut down. Donald Trump, having first of all ridiculed the whole damn idea, now is probably getting ready to blame
it a hoax.
Blame it on the Europeans. Yeah. However, his travel ban is extremely sensible. I'm just lucky I don't know it's going to go ahead, but I was supposed to meet with my 2 research colleagues, Tim Garrett and Matthias Griselli, in Utah. We were going to meet in the Badlands of Utah.
Right.
Far away from people as possible.
But that's not going to happen now.
In early April.
So till September the ban is.
Under a bit of pressure from my partner, which was bloody sensible, I said let's move it to Amsterdam instead. And no, I think it probably won't happen anyway because it's too far away. Yeah. It's all of about 3 weeks.
So all the work that's been done by central banks in all of this. So we had that emergency 0.5% drop by the Bank of England. We're going to find out exactly what the European Central Bank does. Yeah. I mean, it is. So why would they bother doing it?
The trouble is, when it's the only instrument you've ever used, it's the only one you think you have. Now, they have done QE, and this is I've been one of a number of people myself, Richard Werner, I think, Francis Coppola definitely, and Pettifor have been arguing for Michael Hudson as well, have been arguing for a form of debt jubilee, what I call a modern debt jubilee, to get us away from the impact of the last financial crisis. Yeah. And people ask me, what are the chances of this happening, Steve? And I'd say negative percentages. Okay? No way it's ever going to happen. Now it's the only thing that can work. We use the government's money creation capability to give people money so that we can shut capitalism down fundamentally between 1 and 3 months.
So I know it's not getting all the way there, but we've taken a step there, haven't we? We've got a Conservative government in the UK, which has delivered a budget which could have been delivered by and large by a Labour government, that they are big on spending. Yeah. The argument is that interest rates are so low, not talking about that money creation argument, but still thinking about borrowing money, but saying the interest rates are so low, we might as well spend a lot more.
We can actually do it. I mean, actually, I saw John McDonnell today saying quite sensibly that austerity has set us up to fail with the virus because we've been shutting down medical centres, shutting down nurses, sacking them,
research facilities.
Totally, we've saved for future generations. How have we saved for them? By making it like they're going to die of a contagious, fatal.
And if we had saved it, then we're spending it all now.
The
and we haven't saved anyway because
I
it's
saw
a budget. The government is still in deficit.
One of my good MMT friends, Patricia, I can't think of her last name, but she tweeted today about it saying, you save for the future by building for it. Okay, we should have been building medical capabilities. We've trashed it all in the ridiculous idea of saving for the future. Well, let's just go through what would be involved in creating enough money to enable everyone to stay home and buy food, which may have to be delivered by tank, under tank guard. But
or drone, maybe.
Or drone, that's true. We could use drones. But so everybody can stay home for a month to 2 months and get a chance to drastically drop this virus and then start all over again with a lesser restriction.
Well, that's almost the only way, isn't it, actually, ultimately? Because if this thing is so contagious, and it appears that it is, then the only way is going to be to stop human contact. And you could be in contact with people who you know for sure haven't got it, but that would be about all. So if your family hasn't got it, stay with your family.
We can't regard ourselves as safe until there's a reliable instant test. Okay, a test that has to pick up within half an hour or an hour if you're getting it, that you have it, okay? Be able to at least filter people in that way. But we could issue what I could now call coronavirus bonds. And just to let's make some figures up. I haven't worked out the numbers, but let's say £1 trillion for the UK economy. So the government Treasury issues £1 trillion of coronavirus bonds yielding zero interest, okay? The reason is, at the moment, that's a damn sight better than being in the stock market.
Yeah.
Okay. So the financial sector will be oversubscribed gigantically to buy.
Because they have no idea where to put their money right now.
Please, some of the money's not going to get destroyed. So they'll buy zero interest rate bonds off the Treasury. Okay. That'll give us £1 trillion.
Yeah.
We could then, let's say the population's 100 million. It's about
60 million or
roughly, rough figures, £10,000 per person.
Yeah.
That means they can pay their mortgages, they can pay their rent, they don't get evicted. The landlords, equally, don't go bankrupt themselves. The banks don't fail. All the stuff has to be kept alive. And then they can go and buy that food. We have to put as much capacity now as we can into producing fundamental supplies. Obviously, toilet rolls, food,
clearly,
stuff that people have to stay alive, and can operate back at home. And
so we stay in business, in other words. People.
Capitalism has to be suspended until we defeat the virus.
Right, but you're saying here's a way that capitalism can continue.
We can keep it alive.
But what happens at the end then? Because those people then sell those bonds. They go, okay, I'm making money on stocks again now.
Well, that doesn't matter. I mean, they can sell. The thing is, the cost of the government of servicing that debt will be zero.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's no worry about the interest rates are low. You could offer a zero bond right now, and it would be massively oversubscribed. So
the conventional way of thinking would say that at some point those bonds,
that's wrong, which is why
those bonds will finish. They will mature and
you can even make them maternal bonds. I mean, the way that I think the Bank of England actually was partly formed out of bonds for the Napoleonic Wars, in terms of being publicly owned, and they issued what do they call them? The bonds that last forever. They were. Consols. Right. Consols. So sort of consolidating the debt. So they issued debts with no expiry date.
Right.
Okay. Which were yielded an interest rate. Now with this thing, we could equally issue corona bonds with no expiry date. Okay. So it means at any point you can sell them back. There'll be once we hopefully finally defeat the virus,
they'll be worthless.
No.
Well, I mean, no one will want them at that point.
No. They'll still be worth the money. If you buy £1 million worth of coronavirus bonds, they're still worth £1 million. Okay, you can sell them for £1 million.
Yeah.
So there's the convertibility doesn't disappear. Bonds, particularly government bonds, are like that. They don't go to zero.
Well, if I buy a bond, say for $100, and it's got a yield of zero. But I'm happy with that because at least it's a positive figure. But then I get to the point where I could be getting 3 or 4% on the stock market. I'm going to find it hard to sell that for $100.
Sell it for a lower price.
Yes,
okay.
I'll.
But see, in the mint,
ultimately lose out on it.
You might even gain. I mean, the thing is, the price. If you imagine that people are desperate for these bonds, there's only £1 trillion worth of them issued. They're massively oversubscribed. As soon as you've bought them, their value goes up.
Yeah,
there'll be massive trading in the finance market to get hold of these things, but the only things that aren't going down in value. So it could easily finance. And the idea is, I haven't done the accounting yet in Minsky. We found a bug in Minsky that has just been tracked down today that made interlocking double entry bookkeeping tables sometimes give you the wrong sign. We now know where that came from, thank God. So the new version coming out next week will be accurate. But you have the Treasury issues £1 trillion worth of bonds. That's an asset for the Treasury. They sell that. They sell that and get £1 trillion in cash back. The £1 trillion turns up as bonds on the financial sector's books. If we wanted to create money out of that, rather than just what do you do with bonds like that? You take money out of the financial sector where it's basically stultifying, and you put it into circulation in the real economy. That could be bought by the central bank, the Bank of England, if they wish to create additional money into the economy. Pardon me, and that may be necessary because with this crisis, people are going to spend the money they have got much more slowly. So the turnover of money, the money times velocity, will plunge. And one way to compensate that is to increase the amount of money actually in existence, because that money, when it comes in, will be spent.
But it's how you distribute it. It's
simple.
The other
every bank account, anybody, right. any household bank account. And I don't care whether it's whether
it's got £1 million in it or it's got £10 in it.
Doesn't matter. It's a flat amount of money. Rupert Murdoch gets the same amount as you and me. Okay, so £10,000 per account, and that'll mean that people can survive 3 months of effective lockdown. Most people, those for whom that's not enough, probably have got more money to begin with. Yeah. Okay, you really think about the working class, the poor, and the middle class here, to whom that would mean they can pay bills they couldn't otherwise pay.
So the interesting, mortgages will be a big concern for a lot of people. So notice the RBS, which is actually state-owned, it's still a government-owned bank by and large, isn't it? And they're saying, as I'm sure a lot of banks will, that will give you a bit of a mortgage holiday.
Yeah, not enough.
Yeah,
because at the same time, a mortgage holiday, the banks have to account for that. Yeah. So what they do is they've got one of their assets is a bad loan provision or a fail provision. So they'll be transferring that across to the fail. They'll possibly come, and a holiday doesn't mean you don't have to do the work that accumulates later. They could come.
No. Yeah, exactly.
You want to cancel it. You want to simply cancel the probability. So that's why
but if you've got I've got a 19-year loan or 19 years still to go. So it's a race for me, paying off my loan and dying. As to which one comes first. Maybe even sooner, of course, given the virus.
There you go.
If I have to pay it back, if I have 3 months stuck at the end,
I'd rather just say this. The whole idea of my modern debt jubilee initially was to reduce the private debt overhang from the financial crisis, and to give people my favourite data example here is Britain. Britain's when the bubble began in Britain in 1982. The level of private debt as a percentage of GDP was 55%. In the most it had been from 1880 to 1982 was 73%. Under Thatcher and then under what's his name, Blair?
Yep.
With all the deregulation of the financial sector, it went from 55% to 200%. Okay, that's what. That's what caused the boom beforehand, and it caused the bust when that stopped rising. It's now down to about 170%. So UK is still carrying 100% of GDP more of private debt than it did historically. So my idea was all about how we reduce that using a similar mechanism. So we replace credit-based money with fiat money. Now, this is now a sideshow. When people ask me how we're going to reduce the debt levels in the past, when they understood my logic, I said when we face an existential threat.
So if
this is the existential threat.
So if that was enacted now, is that going to drive down that level? Is it ultimately going to drive down that level of private debt? Because we're actually racking up more debt now because we've got to get over the situation, aren't we?
That's government debt, okay? And they're thinking, but
I'm going to rack up debt as well, I guess. So although you're giving me you're giving me the money, which means I can write down some of my debt, but then I'm going to increase it again because I've still got to pay my mortage.
Well,
the net gain is.
You're servicing your mortgage, but the thing is, otherwise your unpaid interest would build up. And when you're not paying a mortgage, you pay not just the interest on the mortgage, you pay interest on the interest you haven't paid. Right. So it goes exponential. But people are now learning that exponential processes aren't particularly good fun.
No, exactly. Well, we're learning it very quickly, aren't we? Yeah. Well, some people are. Some people I still see an awful lot of people on social media and the like saying this is just a massive overreaction, more people are still dying from the flu.
I'm not going to mention names, but a good mate of mine who's on the other side of politics published a figure saying that he thought the death rate in South Korea was only 0.01%.
Right, today.
And I wrote to him and said, where the hell did you get that stupid figure from? I won't explain his logic because it isn't. But people are thinking it's always just like the flu. Now, the flu, first of all, we have herd immunity to some extent, so most people don't catch the flu.
Yeah.
I think I've had about 4 flus in my life. I know I've had 3.
Yeah.
I've probably had a 4th one as well.
And it's got a morbidity rate of about 0.1%, so that's
0.1,
blown out of the water. And as you say, it's not growing exponentially.
This one, we've never had exposure to it before. It's growing, it's doubling every 6 days. Without special measures to slow down interaction, and looks like it's going to have a mortality rate of anywhere between 1% and 3%.
Yeah.
So it is between 5 and 15 times as virulent as the flu. And the trouble is, the real danger for us is we have an incredibly fragile economy now. All this stuff about efficiency and globalization and reducing costs, yada, 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 that has all meant that we have a system which can be smashed by something like this.
So the only way we're going to stop it is through human contact, and the only way we're going to stop that human contact is by staying at home. And if we're staying at home, then we're obviously not working.
Exactly.
And which means we're probably at home trying to claim some sort of benefit if we're not creating an income. So, but it all seems like peanuts, doesn't it? So the UK government in the measures yesterday said that, well, we'll tell you what, in the budget, we'll pay if you're a small business, less than 250 people, not if you're a solo worker, which is a vast proportion of the population now, but if you're a small business, we'll pay your sick leave for you, which is, guess what, £94 a week. That's going to go a long way, isn't it?
Almighty.
But then I looked and I thought, okay, what about those people who are not working for a small business, people like me who are sole traders? If I suddenly lost all my income, what would I claim? So I went through because I would claim support allowance, employment and support allowance. I went through online to see how much I'd get. I get £34.40 per week from the government.
Wow.
So that's marvellous news, isn't it?
What are you going to spend it on?
I don't know really where I'm going to go for lunch today.
I reckon toilet rolls sound pretty good to me.
I just need to convince my bank that I might not be paying my mortgage for a few months, because that's probably about an hour of my mortgage payment, I should imagine. So I mean, I mean, these are tiny measures, aren't they?
Tiny. And this is like Australia's stimulus measure, which I saw just before I left the country 2 days ago, was $2 billion. Now, my estimate of the same sort of estimate I did as a rule of thumb, and it's in the Daily Mail. 11
online. Billion, actually.
Huh?
So, in fairness, 11 billion.
Now, it was 2 when I left the country.
11 billion by the end of June. A lot of that is going to be those one-off payments of $750.
I was saying it should be about 200 billion.
Yeah.
Okay. Again, fine. I mentioned, I think we talked about 1% bonds there. There's no reason to offer interest rate on these bonds at all, given the low inflation, low interest rates right now, and absolute panic about collapsing finance markets. 0% interest bonds, 200 billion worth, no increase in government debt servicing. And of course, I do recommend people who are worried about the government debt to check the little cartoon book that I've written the script for on my Patreon page and read the second chapter, where my little protagonists, Tom, Dick and Harriet, find out that just like if you get into a skid around a roundabout and you're going right, if you're in a country where you've got to go right around a roundabout, you get in a skid going right, the way you get out of it is you turn the wheels left. Okay, so running a surplus increases the government debt to GDP ratio. Running a deficit reduces the government debt to GDP ratio. The logic's in the script and in the mathematical model attached to it as well. So we've got to get – this thinking has put us into an absolute bind. It paralysed us at a time when we need to be mobile and active.
So the United States, of course, is doing well. Apart from the fact they're locking down the country, which might be a sensible move. But
actually, that wouldn't be a bad idea permanently.
It's increasingly we might not have too much objection to that.
More Americans, the rest of the world. Yay!
Good morning, by the way, to anyone listening in America.
Sorry, guys.
We love you.
I love you, but take your military bases back home, please.
I love America, apart from the fact my wife is having to do a massive of forms because she's a US citizen, because her dad was a US citizen. She's never lived in America, and she's having to, but you still have to fill in, it's one of 2 places in the world. I think the other one might be Iran or somewhere like that, where you have to fill in forms and lodge tax returns, even though you've never lived in America, never earned any money in America, and also pay if we sold our house, even though we live in our house and it's worth more than $1.5 million, we'd have to pay capital gains. In the United States, even though our house is in this country and I don't even hold a passport. Doesn't matter that I own half the house. it's based on the value of the property. So there's all sorts of crazy stuff there. But anyway, that's a slight digression. The United States is, even though they can get all that sorted out, they can't get sorted out how they're going to deal with all of this. The Democrats have put a bill forward that they want to pay sick leave. Again, it's not going to be enough. Widespread testing, food aid, unemployment insurance, all that sort of stuff. The problem is in the United States, of course, if the Democrats table something, then the Republicans will nowhere in the world, even though it might be the best bill in the world, they'll never agree to it.
This may be one way we break down that American tribalism, quite possibly, because I know Tom Hanks votes for Democrat.
Not with Donald Trump in charge, I don't think.
Not what if Donald Trump gets it. I mean, there was a Israeli American PAC, the AI PAC, which Pence was at. And several people there tested positive to coronavirus.
Yeah.
That was less than a week, I think about a week ago. So it's quite likely.
Can Republicans get it as well, can they?
They can.
I thought it was just the poor people.
Strangely enough, it doesn't give you immunity. So it's quite feasible that some prominent American Republicans are going to come down with this very soon. And when they do, then I think the two sides of the aisles will... I'm not going to use the phrase join hands because that's the last thing they should do, but they may finally unite.
They'll happily step united by stepping away from each other.
That's right.
So I wonder, so I mean, we are using, in central bank speak, there's been that term, the unconventional approach.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be that unconventional, has it? Maybe, what you're talking about is the more unconventional fiscal approach that's going to be to be taken. And maybe it will happen. Maybe there's a chance.
I think it has to. I mean, it'll be done too late, and we're going to leave this thing. Just everything else, we're reacting too late to an exponential process, and that's why I published those 2 posts on my Patreon blog about thinking exponentially about the coronavirus. One, I made a mathematical error, by the way, which one of my patrons pointed out. I'd used e to the power of the time rather than 2 to the power of the doubling rate, so I fixed that up in a second post. But if the real thing about social isolation is not keeping yourself safe, though of course that's part of the objective. It's to slow down the transmission of the disease. And if we can slow it down, if we can reduce how fast it doubles from, say, every 6 days to every month, okay, we buy ourselves something like an extra 6 to 9 months to do what we have to do medically, which is the most essential thing. Forget the vaccine. Not forget it, but it's not as important. We need tests so we can test people. And we have to be everybody. We have to have 9 billion test units. Okay? There's a huge production process involved in that. We have to have test systems that can test people to see whether they've got it when they're asymptomatic.
But we're not going to do that in time. I mean, we're talking days for all of this.
If we bought ourselves 9 months more, we might have a chance to do it. And we need to have antivirals. If you get an antiviral, and then, of course, you can't charge for the damn thing. This, again, is a case where the free market ideologues hopefully aren't so thick-skulled that they don't realise this. You can't charge for it because if you charge for it, people who have it won't get it and it will be spread through everybody. Yeah. You have to have antivirals given away free. Okay? Yeah. So it's capitalism has to be suspended until we've defeated this virus.
My God, it sounds like you're talking about Obamacare there. God, that's never going to... Surely that can't
I'm happy to call it Trump Care. I'm happy to call it Trump Care because, in this case, you've got to do something which means we stop society breaking down because of a disease. If we were
how do we come out the other side of this? By the way, how do we come out the other side? What changes if we get this under control? And I think a lot of people are going to lose their lives, but maybe we find a cure for it in time, or it slows down, and we manage to find a way of coping with it. What changes at the end of all of this?
I think instantly the whole idea of austerity is a good idea goes out the window. Because people are saying one of the reasons we're failing to cope with the virus is we don't have enough ICU units. We only have ICU units you can call episodic events, not systemic. We now know we need them for systemic events. The idea of limits to growth, which was disparaged by the dreadfully bad economics of people like William Nordhaus, Richard Toll, Mendelssohn. I can mention a few more names, but I'll leave it at those 3. The dreadfully bad arguments they've made about the dangers of climate change to trivialise it, which Bjorn Lomborg is now putting out another book on, by the way.
Right.
I would burn that, but it's probably better to bury it.
But what's the connection between this and climate change?
The connection is exactly the same thing as causing it, the pressure humanity is putting on the environment. And increase in the death rate was one of the predictions of the limits to growth. Right. Okay. They had an integrated system.
But we weren't putting anywhere near as much pressure on the planet in 1918 when we had the Spanish flu and we had.
No, that's right, and that's why it's much dangerous. And we didn't have the same global supply lines. So back in those days, if you made for Model T, it was made in Chicago.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if you make a motor car, it's made in 30 countries.
Well, there we are. I mean, it was a bit of a leading question as to what changes, and I agree. I'm sure austerity, but globalization is
done. I mean, if just for a start, globalization means you've got to ship bits and pieces of technology across oceans on container vessels, and no sane sailor should go aboard a boat which is going to have them locked up for 2 to 4 weeks with people who may or may not have the virus, because on the other side, if they do have it, they're all going to have the virus. It's not that one. It's that they have the thing called an R0 number, which says on average this gets transmitted to between 2 and 4 people. That's just statistical. What you can have in a confined environment, and you can't get away from other people unless you have a natural immunity to a disease which we don't have herd immunity to, so it's just the luck of your genes. Everybody's going to have it.
Yeah.
So therefore,
which we've seen on obviously on these cruise liners.
Yeah.
Where people have been trying to isolate, but it's the draw of the all-you-can-eat buffet, isn't it? Which pulls them back together again.
Oh, it's just wonderful. So that's the deadly thing. So globalization doesn't work with the global epidemic, and this is where
but here we are in the UK saying, well, we're going to have closer trade with the United States, less trade with Europe. I mean, that doesn't make any sense.
The trade may still happen, but globalized production will be ending, and maybe even trade. I mean, the whole idea, the neoclassical economics has lauded this idea of comparative advantage, specialization, and efficiency. Their arguments are garbage for comparative advantage, as I've said in a couple of articles. But the true thing is the globalized system is fragile. And now I've hit it with a blow, and we're seeing what happens when it gets with a blow.
So finishing off, what we're going to go through over the next week or two then, clearly we're going to see this thing escalating a great deal. Every day now, new headlines, more disturbing statistics, some sort of response from governments, but as we're saying, not enough. We're going to see more lockdowns, obviously, over the coming week. Probably from the UK, you won't be able to fly to the United States, just as you can't fly from Europe to the United States. Maybe you can't fly anywhere within Europe. And almost certainly, I think the UK is going to go into lockdown, stop sporting events. Maybe the kids aren't going to go to school. All that sort of things is going to happen. Pretty soon after that, we're going to find that the money that's been offered by the government for the jobs that we can't perform anymore isn't enough, and people are going to start running out of money pretty sharpish, aren't they?
I think the best thing is a mortgage strike.
Right.
Mortgage strike, rent strike. Okay.
So we just refuse to pay our mortgages.
Yeah. If the
there's going to be no one at the bank to knock on your door.
If the governments aren't sensible enough to provide a buffer for it to happen immediately, then it's going to have to be grassroots reaction. And the first thing you should stop paying, if you're looking at simply having enough money to go and buy food for your kids for a lockdown period for 2 to 4 weeks, maybe 2 months, stop paying the rent. Stop paying the mortgage. Okay, it's ludicrous that we have to make decisions from the bottom up for a systemic event like this. But it's because we have
stop paying the rent. That's going to turn to violence pretty quickly, though.
That's fine.
You're sounding more like Karl Marx by the day.
No, what landlord's going to bash a tenant? Or what thug is going to be paid by a landlord to go and bash a tenant when if they hit the tenant they might get coronavirus? Okay, even violence. This will stop violence for the simple reason is you don't want to get close to anybody else, even if you are bigger and stronger and nastier. Okay, so a rent strike and a mortgage strike. If they don't wake up in time, do it to them.
Right. Otherwise, issue bonds. A coronavirus bond, 0 interest, in perpetuity, and money into everyone's bank account.
Money into everyone's bank account, and get ready for probably military delivery of food.
All right. Happy days.
Indeed.
Good to talk, Steve. See you again soon.
Okay.
He's a brave man, isn't he? Making predictions like that. We'll find out whether they come true or not in the coming weeks. Meanwhile, if you want to catch these podcasts, you can listen to them in full at debunkingeconomics.com if you become a subscriber or if you become a supporter of Steve Keen on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/Prof Steve Keen. I'm Phil Dobbie. We'll catch you again next time. Thanks for listening. If you've enjoyed this podcast, then please share it with your friends, like it on YouTube, and subscribe to this channel.